Maple Street, USA, late summer.
A tree-lined little world full of front porch gliders, barbecues, the laughter of children, and even the bell of an ice cream vendor. By all means, just another normal day in the neighborhood. Until something strange passes over the neighborhood, causing everyone to stop and stare. Even those inside step out to ask what that strange sound was, but no one really knows. Best guess is that it was some kind of meteor. A very odd and very close flying meteor. But just as most things, it only takes a moment for everyone to collectively go back to what they were doing before, all of them still holding on to the lingering question of what just happened, but ignoring the need to answer as everyone overlooks the issue. Because even now, fear is already creeping at the door, begging to be let in.
Wait a minute! Now let's not be a mob!
And when it is, it will hide itself away, pretending to be something else, something helpful.
Why, this whole thing is some kind of madness.
Only revealing itself when it's far too late, and only when it is too great for you to fight your way out of its grasp.
Believe me, friends, the only thing that's gonna happen is that we're gonna eat each other up alive!
If only they knew what to look for before the monsters were due at Maple Street, maybe then they would have been able to avoid the Twilight Zone. A warning of the potential threat of something watching and waiting could have saved them so much trouble and so much heartache. Then they would have been able to prepare beforehand and known whether or not the people that are around them are really who they say they are.
Let's pick out every idiosyncrasy of every man, woman, and child on this whole street.
Whether that's at the dinner table or even when they're sending fishy links asking for the login information to the bank account, which is not something that we need to worry about with this video's partner NordVPN, since they don't only help by keeping your private information private, but by also identifying cybersecurity threats that may be detrimental to your bank account, your device's software, and even your personal character within your community. And of course, I have to mention one of my favorite features of NordVPN. By being able to change your location in the app, it allows you to get around geo-locked content on any streaming services that you have. All of it's super easy to use, very helpful, and something that I just personally leave on all the time on both my PC and my phone, and something that you can now try out by using my link, nordvpn.com/poltergeist, where you can get access to Nord's best offer when you sign up for a 2-year plan, and even get 4 bonus months on top of that. So check out my link in the description. That's nordvpn.com/poltergeist. It really helps the channel when you do, and you can finally lose that feeling of always being watched, knowing that Nord has also got your back. That's nordvpn.com/poltergeist.
This is Maple Street on a late Saturday afternoon.
Maple Street in the last calm and reflective moment before the monsters came. And it all started with the electricity, not just the lights and receptacles, but everything. From the phone lines to anything that was even battery operated, it all just stopped working. Which means if I was there, everyone would be asking me questions about what's going on, but electric meters like this one also run off of batteries, leaving the only options being the old way to do it or the dangerous way to find what we already know, that there's no power. Which is why when everyone steps outside in confusion, Pete Van Horn does the smartest thing and sets off for the next neighborhood to see if they're having the same issues, leaving behind everyone else on Maple Street to wonder what is going on.
Little power failure and everybody gets flustered and everything.
Charlie here makes a good point, as he just recommended that they run down to the police station, but saying that out loud sounds a little too crazy for something that's so simple. Only Steve agrees that they need to go and get some help, because this is clearly not just a normal power outage. This is a complete and total blackout of everything that uses power, including their vehicles. It doesn't make any sense as to why this is happening, but that doesn't stop Steve and Charlie from setting off on foot. What does stop them, though, is Tommy.
Mr. Brand?
You better not. They don't want you to.
They, as in the ones that flew over the neighborhood earlier and who are now behind this strange outage. After all, this is how it always happens in all of the stories that Tommy has ever read. That's just crazy talk though, and everyone knows it. Surely the meteor that passed overhead just messed with the magnetic fields around all of their electrical equipment earlier, and everyone will be assured that nothing is wrong when Steve and Charlie return with some help. Again though, Tommy is able to stop them, this time with an infectious thought from one of his stories that no one is allowed to leave the neighborhood.
Except the people they'd sent down ahead of them. They look just like humans.
You can see the shift in everyone here. They were already on edge, but they don't just shrug this off. Even when they begin to call what Tommy is saying crazy, the crazy part is that they all continue to listen, especially when Steve tells him to continue. A mother, a father, and 2 kids were sent to infiltrate the neighborhood, looking the part of a normal family, but secretly not even being human. No one has a response as they all stand silently beside one another, giving a side eye to everyone else around them. Even when Steve jokes about going through everyone to discover who is really human, the laughs and the smirks fade quickly. Thankfully, they're interrupted by Les attempting to start his car, and of course, just like Steve's, it doesn't work. It's in the grip of confusion that leads Les back to the side of his car, and that also begins to transform the crowd of neighbors into one of doubters, immediately picking apart Les's character by pointing out how he didn't come outside when that thing flew overhead, or how him and his entire family have always been a little odd, and now his car is the only car on the street that is able to start. Something isn't right, and something hasn't been right for a long time with this Mr. Les Goodman, as they all can see it so clearly now, and they begin to move to confront him.
Wait a minute! Now, let's not be a mob.
Steve's right. We all just need to calm down, and surely we can figure this out together without losing our heads. The car started on its own, and no one knows why. And now it's stopped on its own, and everyone wants an answer. But when Les also questions what is happening, it's Dawn that begins demanding that he tell them what is going on, sparking another riot amongst the crowd as they all begin to shout at Les, forcing him backwards onto his porch. Yell all they want, he still doesn't know what is happening, leading Steve to step in and fill in some of the gaps for him, explaining that somehow they're now on a monster hunt because they believe that somebody in the neighborhood isn't really human, but some kind of being from outer space. It really does sound insane when said out loud. Like, sure, some weird stuff is going on in the neighborhood, but does that really justify the reason for everyone to be jumping to such strange conclusions? All based on an idea from some comic book reading kid?
What is this, a practical joke or something?
Not even Steve has a response that can help sway everyone's thoughts now. And Les can see the accusatory glare of the mob before him, that this is just another nail in his coffin. More questions about the car are asked by Charlie and Dawn and a woman, but then she stops herself. And it's not until all of the attention is shifted to her that she reveals what she has seen. A couple of times now, on nights that she struggled to sleep, when she would step outside onto her front porch, she would see Les standing in his front yard in the very early hours of the morning, staring up at the sky.
You know what I'm guilty of? I'm guilty of insomnia.
Les steps forward, proclaiming this to the crowd, and all of them stumble backwards. This was the straw that broke the camel's back, and it is the fear that is plastered across every single one of their faces that causes Les to begin to call all of them out. A bunch of frightened rabbits, all of them sick people. If only Les wasn't so flustered in this moment. If only he could think straight and effectively relay to everyone how he is feeling right now. Maybe then, what happens next would have been different. But instead, still being in the grip of confusion and now anger, he tells them that they should be scared because they don't even realize what they're starting right now, just that it will be a nightmare. Les isn't wrong in what he means, he's just wrong in how he says it. Since his warning to his neighbors about how their paranoia will lead them into nothing but chaos was taken as a veiled threat and only has further proved their suspicions correct, causing everyone to no longer even hide their mistrust of their neighbors, but to be so open about it that they're all just sitting outside watching one another.
It just doesn't seem right keeping watch on them. Well, they're our neighbors.
Neighbors for the last 5 years and friends for nearly as long, but to Charlie, that doesn't prove anything. Something isn't right about Les. Something isn't right about all of these people standing around out here with their candles, and something definitely isn't right about this entire situation. But thankfully, there's Steve, someone who only wants to help and attempts to do just that. Though as he begins walking towards the Goodman house, Les tells him to stay back, as he has already explained to everyone there that sometimes he just doesn't sleep very well, and even his wife confirms this, also claiming that all of this just has to be some kind of madness. Before Steve can say any more than yes, it is, Charlie cuts him off, yelling at Steve that he better watch who he is seen with because he himself is not above suspicion. And without missing a beat, Steve tells him the same thing. And that goes for everyone else here that is ages 8 and up. But that doesn't change the fact that they need to figure out what to do right now, because all of this standing around keeping an eye on one another just seems so insane. But Charlie assures everyone else that one of these things will give in if they just keep watching. That's what they need to do. That is what they must do.
There's something you can do, Charlie. You can go inside and keep your mouth shut.
That would be so much better than him sitting here like the ruling judge over the community, waiting for one person to make a wrong move so he can declare their sentencing and condemn them. And it isn't even that difficult with the state of mind that everyone is in now, as Charlie then redirects all of the attention back onto Steve as they begin to ask questions about him and a strange hobby that he has. A hobby that none of them even knew that he had until his wife Myra began talking about it.
Let's pick out every idiosyncrasy of every man, woman, and child on this whole street.
This might help them to see that they all do weird little things and would honestly prove them to be human, but it would take too much time because everyone wants answers, but so few have the patience for an explanation. Steve can see that, and that's why he changes from reason to confrontation in his responses. You see, Steve's hobby has him spending hours in his basement on different nights, hours alone, working on a radio that none of them even knew existed until tonight. So Charlie seizes his opportunity to ask Steve the obvious question of, who are you talking to on this mysterious radio of yours?
Who do I talk to? Well, I talk to monsters from outer space.
Steve doesn't stop there. No, he continues and tells them exactly what he knows they're thinking, that he talks to three-headed green men that like to fly over neighborhoods in spaceships that look like meteors. He's over it, all of it, but it's his wife that really sees what is happening here, how everyone around them has slowly began to step forward, and how the looks on their faces are not ones of understanding, and how these jokes do not sound like jokes to them. And that scares her. Myra tries her hardest to quiet Steve in telling everyone that it's just a ham radio. They can all go and see it if they want, but Steve cuts her off, denying anyone access into his home. They can go get a warrant if they want entrance into his house, and Charlie starts yelling again at Steve and is immediately shut down as he tells him to stop pointing his finger at everyone out here, saying that one's dangerous, that one's safe, and that one's a menace. As he then turns to the crowd and demands that they do the same, because all of them are looking for someone to blame, someone to be the scapegoat, someone that they can crucify and then tell themselves themselves that they did the right thing because that one person was just a little different than the rest of them.
Believe me, friends, the only thing that's gonna happen is that we're gonna eat each other up alive!
Silence falls over the neighborhood as no one has a rebuttal because Steve's right. They've somehow found themselves on this insane witch hunt among some of the people that they're closest with. But the shame of their actions is slowly wiped away from each one of their faces as the sound of approaching footsteps from someone or something grows louder. Stepping into the street, they stare at a shadowy figure as Don separates from the rest of the group to run for his home, and a woman exclaims that it's the monster. Steve standing in front, Tommy behind him, and Charlie to his side, all of them together, waiting. As Don returns, taking his place between Steve and Charlie, shotgun in hand, ready to put an end to the monster before it gets any closer. Steve snatches the gun away from him, saying this whole thing is crazy, but Charlie berates him, taking it from Steve, telling him that he will not let this thing walk over them. He will not give the opportunity for it to attack. The smell of gunpowder fills the air, a dog barking at the echoing shot, the swift footfalls of the crowd moving towards the monster, towards Pete Van Horn, who now lies dead in the street after finally returning from the surrounding neighborhoods, dead at the hands of Charlie, someone who has constantly found fault in all of those around him, someone who has continued to push this idea of a monster in their midst, and someone who even now is trying to justify his shooting of Mr. Pete Van Horn. It's the lights returning that changes the crowd into a mob once more, as the only lights to now be on are in Charlie's home. Questions turn to accusations, and Charlie tries his hardest to explain, but that time has passed as he sprints for his door and the horde chases after him, taking up stones and hurling them at the one who doesn't belong. Some crash into the house, one breaks the hanging porch light, and one strikes Charlie in the head. It's the sight of his own blood that forces him to play into their hand as he begins screaming that he knows who it is. He knows who doesn't belong.
It's a kid! It's Tommy! He's the one!
It's difficult to tell if the look on everyone's face is one of shock at the insane claim that Charlie just made, or one of understanding as to why he made it. Tommy's mother must have had the same thought as she immediately begins defending her son, but all it takes is one person raising the question of how did he know that all of this would happen, that sparks the rage in everyone else. Tommy bolts, his mother close behind, and the whole swarm of what were once his neighbors clawing after him, shrieking for the boy, for the thing to be stopped before it makes it home. There where the lights will return, just like at Charlie's house. No, Bob Weaver's house. No, Don's house.
It's the Williams house! It's a kid, I tell you! It's Charlie!
Complete chaos breaks out. No one knows who to trust or what to believe, only that the others are to blame. The others must not be human and must be removed by any means necessary, whatever it takes to defeat the monsters of Maple Street.
Throw them into darkness for a few hours and then sit back and watch the pattern.
We see Maple Street from a vantage point upon a hill nearby, two beings discussing the insanity that they have caused below, while still controlling the electrical systems from a switchboard in front of them. This isn't the first time they have done this, and it's not the first time that they have seen this result. This pattern that they talk about always leads the humans to seek out the most dangerous enemy that they can find: themselves. All these beings need to do to conquer the planet is let humanity destroy itself as they sit back and watch. Over and over, a monster will be revealed. And over the true culprit will go unnoticed as the voice of reason is choked out by confusion and chaos.
The tools of conquest do not necessarily come with bombs and explosions and fallout.
There are weapons that are simply thoughts, attitudes, prejudices that are only to be found in the minds of men.
For the record, prejudices can kill.
And suspicions can destroy. And a thoughtless, frightened search for a scapegoat has a fallout all its own for the children, and the children yet unborn.
And the pity of it is that these things cannot be confined to the Twilight Zone.
Where did it all go wrong? What was the tipping point? Was it when Charlie shot Pete Van Horn, or was it earlier when they had all had time to brew in the dark over the strange things that were happening around them? Or could it have already been too late, even in the beginning, before Tommy had ever told them about the stories that he had read? And when did you realize that the real horror of the story is how quickly it could happen to you? Each time it only took one person, one human, asking one question or presenting one idea to sway the entire crowd. Others were able to stand in the way for a moment, but eventually those ideas had time to fester to the point that even reason wasn't enough to cut through the disorienting haze of fear. Question 6, the big question. What message or lesson does the alien's dialogue send? Remember to explain your answer and think critically about what you've learned so far. We can be quick to judge, quick to blame, quick to attack. Fear is a powerful thing, something that can be used as a weapon. It can grow into something nearly unstoppable when we allow suspicions, prejudices, and thoughtlessness to take a hold of our minds. But a small line isn't to be overlooked. The world may be full of Maple Streets that all fall victim to that same pattern.
And this pattern is always the same, with few variations.
That is why stories like this are so important, because those few variations would come from people like you and me who know the power of fear and are willing to stand up together and stop it before it goes too far.
The only thing that's gonna happen is that we're gonna eat each other up alive.
Steve tried, but mistakes were made as his own doubts and frustrations began to set in. Even Charlie, in his own way, was just trying his hardest to bring it all to an end as quickly as he could.
One of them will tip their hand, they got to.
So many decisions could have led them to a different outcome, but the monsters were already there and waiting on Maple Street long before the power went out. I've had 17 years to answer that question, and I'm sure the first time I heard this story and wrote my answer down in Miss Adams' 7th grade class that it wasn't nearly as in-depth as this. But even then, the basic understanding was still there, that fear is a powerful thing, and that oftentimes in life, the real monsters are not hiding under the bed.
They pick the most dangerous enemy they can find, and it's themselves.
I'll forever be grateful to Miss Adams for introducing me to this story and the rest of the Twilight Zone and Edgar Allan Poe and so many other stories along these lines. And she passed away that year that we were in 7th grade. This story meant a lot to me back then. I remember just how serious I wanted to take my role as Les Goodman reading the lines to the class. I didn't want to mess them up. I read ahead. I was trying to keep track of how I wanted to say what was going to be said, and now to be able to revisit this story and to tell it in such a way for other people to enjoy is so cool to me, which is why all I can leave you with is a recommendation to go back and watch it for yourself, and a warning to be weary of the monsters that feed on fear.
These things cannot be confined to the Twilight Zone.
I hope you can understand now why this video is not a part of the Twist series. This episode, it holds a special place to me, so I wanted to do it as something separate on its own and just have it by itself and not a part of a series or anything. But if you made it to this point in the video, first off, thank you, and I hope you had a good time. I hope that you enjoyed me retelling this story, even though I know that it's not as good as watching it for yourself, just because of how incredible this story in this episode is. And if you have some other stories that you want me to cover, just let me know down in the comments, and I will try my hardest to go through them. So thank you if you do, and of course, as always, thanks to all of the channel members who have been getting their own cut of each video here lately, which is just the same video but without any ads and with no interruptions. It's the least that I can do for all of you, and thank you for being here. I really am glad that you're here. And I hope that you would know that if we lived in the same neighborhood and something like this were to happen, that you know you can trust me. Because I'm not some thing from outer space. You can trust me and take my hand. Have an extra blessed day so I can see you in the next one.